Tough talk from Toronto FC, a huge blow for the Colorado Rapids, and the reactions to the latest power rankings next on The Daily. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of The Daily, here with Greg Lawless. I'm Nick Fershaw, and we're talking about the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final series. Greg, we're about one day out from Toronto FC and Santos Laguna down in Torreon, Mexico. We saw a good first leg last week that ended with a little bit of a scrum between these two. Now we're hearing a little more tough talk from Ryan Johnson in Toronto FC. Yeah,
and Johnson coming right out and saying very blatantly that he expects it to be a physical game. Yeah. He basically said, I expect to be kicked, I expect to be tripped, I expect to be pushed around. A little bit of talk about what sort of referee they're going to get down there. I haven't seen yet who the referee will be for this game, so that might play a factor in this. Then again, the Mexicans were saying that the fact that it was an MLS referee that reffed the first leg, they thought that was a factor. So all sorts of things that are going into this. And some of this is also mind games. They're getting into each other's heads. I think that the Toronto guys know that Herculez Gomez with Santos reads all this stuff, and he certainly does. We've talked to him about that he reads what's going on in the papers. So there's some mind games, a little bit of tough talk from both sides.
That game again, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox Soccer, and you can find a live chat on MLSsoccer.com. Before we leave this subject, I wanted to mention Herculez Gomez joined us on Extra Time Radio on Monday and had a little bit more about all these altercations after the game. He was downplaying, and I have to say he was downplaying this dogfight notion that's going to be down there in Mexico, and said that they're going to settle it on the field. Again, the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final series back in action on Wednesday night. Next up, a huge blow for the Colorado Rapids. Big news out of Denver that Pablo Mastroeni, the veteran midfielder, is going to miss at least 6 weeks with concussion symptoms. Greg, this is something he's been battling since last year when he suffered a concussion against Real Salt Lake, re-aggravated again in the opener against Columbus, took another blow in this one. He's going to miss some time. He's already missed a lot of time this season, but he's going to miss a bit more.
Yeah, and it's certainly a hit for the Colorado Rapids. Obviously, we saw what happens when they didn't have him in there the last couple of weeks, and yet they got the win this past weekend. I think a lot of that was that Lorenowitz was back into the lineup for this. But for the Rapids, this is their spiritual soul, if you will, for this club over the last decade or so, Pablo Mastroeni. I do, however, think it's the smart move. Be cautious about this. There's no reason to rush back on anything like this. He's still a young guy. He still talks about how, you know, he wakes up in the morning a little bit cautious, a little bit nervous about things. So there's no need to rush back to soccer. This is one of those moments where you say, this is above the game. It's much beyond the game when you're talking about things like concussion symptoms.
Yeah, with everything we know now about concussions, it looks like the Colorado Rapids and the training staff out there being very cautious with Pablo Mastroeni. But you mentioned it, Jeff Lorenowitz. The onus is going to fall on him and Martin Rivero, now the newcomer for the Colorado Rapids. It's not going to be easy. They're on the road at Real Salt Lake this weekend. I'll have to check out and see how the Rapids do in that Rocky Mountain Cup showdown. Next up, the latest edition of the Power Rankings is out. You can find that on MLSsoccer.com, and there is some movement. Not at the top. You're going to find the same team from last week, and that's Sporting Kansas City, the only perfect team left this season in MLS, but certainly some movement behind Sporting Kansas City. The biggest mover and shaker, the San Jose Earthquakes.
Wow, I mean, jumping up to number 3 in the Power Rankings, the Earthquakes, after they took care of Seattle up at CenturyLink. Our own colleague Simon Borg saying that they actually spanked them in CenturyLink. Of course, Simon's a little nuts, and I'm not sure if I would say that they spanked them, but they certainly got a good win up in Seattle. That's big for them. The other news, the LA Galaxy dropping down to number 6 after that loss to New England when they really didn't play well, and there was a little bit of embroilment after the game and at halftime with David Beckham coming out, Landon Donovan's injury. We keep seeing the effects of Omar Gonzalez's injury still hampering them in the back, and still no Leonardo. That all hurts them. Number 6 in the Power Rankings this week, the lowest they've been in 2 years. All last year, the lowest they got was number 4, so the Galaxy's still struggling. Also, Chicago with a little bit of drop. The Revolution climbing way up from number 16 up to number 9, I believe it is. So.
Yeah, it's interesting in the beginning of the season, having looked at the Power Rankings over the last couple of years, how much ground you can gain in the beginning of the season, because no one knows what to expect.
No one really knows, exactly.
Nobody knows yet. There's not a trend yet. But San Jose, definitely the biggest winners. They're up to number 3. You can find the Power Rankings on MLSsoccer.com and Tuesday. And a couple other things you're going to find there. The AT&T Goal of the Week. Make sure you log on and vote. You can find all the different ways to vote. And we mentioned it before. Extra Time Radio, the latest edition, is out with Herculez Gomez from Santos Laguna and Jay Heaps, the head coach of the New England Revolution, giving us some insight how the Revs beat the Galaxy, a very big win, maybe the biggest upset of the season so far. You can find that on iTunes and Buzzsprout. And for all the latest headlines in MLS, log on to MLSsoccer.com.